The Battle of Karansebes, 1788. Picture a crisp autumn night in 1788. The Austrian army, poised for battle against the Ottoman Empire, has set up camp near the town of Karansebes. Tensions are high, but so is the thirst for a little liquid courage. Enter the scene. A group of Austrian scouts who stumble upon some local gypsies selling schnapps. They decide a pre-battle drink is just what the doctor ordered. A few drinks turn into a few too many, and soon they are quite merrily inebriated. Now, in their jovial state, they return to camp, but not without a bit of noise. This commotion catches the attention of a group of infantrymen who, feeling left out, demand their share of the booze. The scouts, not keen on sharing their newfound treasure, refuse. Words are exchanged, tempers flare, and before anyone knows it, a brawl breaks out. Amidst the chaos, someone fires a shot. This single gunshot echoes through the camp, and in the confusion, someone shouts, "The Turks are attacking!" Panic spreads like wildfire. Soldiers, half asleep and wholly confused, grab their weapons and start firing in every direction. In the dark and under the influence, friend and foe become indistinguishable. The cavalry, hearing the commotion, assumes the camp is under attack. They charge in, only to be met with a hail of bullets from their own infantry. The situation rapidly deteriorates into a full-scale battle against themselves. Soldiers are yelling, cannons are firing, and all the while, the Ottoman army is nowhere to be seen. By the time the sun rises, the battlefield is littered with casualties, and the Austrian army is in disarray. The Ottomans, who eventually arrive, find nothing but the remnants of an army that has thoroughly defeated itself without a single enemy soldier having set foot on the field. The Pig War, 1859. Imagine, if you will, the picturesque San Juan Islands in 1859, nestled between the burgeoning United States and the mighty British Empire. This serene setting is about to become the stage for one of history's most peculiar standoffs, all thanks to a pig with a penchant for potatoes. Meet the key players. On one side, we have American farmer Lyman Cutler, a man just trying to cultivate his land and live the pioneer dream. On the other, we have Charles Griffin, a British citizen and owner of a rather adventurous black pig. This pig, with a taste for adventure and potatoes, repeatedly invades Cutler's garden, turning it into his personal buffet. One fateful day, Cutler's patience snaps. Spotting the pig once again in his garden, he grabs his rifle and in a moment of frustration, shoots the porcine invader. Now, in most cases, this might lead to a neighborly dispute, or perhaps an awkward conversation over the fence. But this is the 19th century, and we're dealing with international tensions. Griffin, understandably upset, demands compensation for his lost pig. Cutler offers $10, but Griffin, feeling that his beloved pig was worth far more, reports the incident to British authorities. In response, the British threaten to arrest Cutler. Not to be outdone, the Americans call for military support, and soon both nations are sending troops to the island. What started as a spat over a pig escalates into a full-blown military standoff. American and British soldiers, armed to the teeth, face off across the picturesque fields of San Juan Island, all while diplomats and leaders scramble to avoid a war over a pig. For weeks, the tension simmers. Soldiers on both sides dig in, build fortifications, and prepare for what could become a full-scale conflict. Yet, amidst the saber-rattling, cooler heads prevail. British Rear Admiral Robert L. Baines famously refuses to involve two great nations in a war over a squabble about a pig. Finally, after several tense months and with the intervention of higher authorities, an agreement is reached. Both sides agree to a joint military occupation of the island until the border dispute can be resolved. The Pig War ends without a single shot fired in anger, besides the one that started it all. The Battle of the Frogs, 1754. In the heart of 18th century France, in the peaceful village of Windmill, something very peculiar is about to happen. The villagers, blissfully unaware, are soon to be embroiled in one of the most bizarre and comical incidents in military history, all thanks to a cacophony of croaks. Picture a warm summer night in 1754. The air is still, the stars are out, and the villagers of Windmill are settling down for a good night's sleep. But as the moon rises, an eerie sound fills the air. It's loud, persistent, and growing in intensity, the croaking of thousands of frogs from a nearby marsh. Now, in the age before alarm systems and instant communication, the villagers had only their wits and their imaginations. The mysterious noise sends their imaginations into overdrive. To the untrained ear, the croaking of frogs starts to resemble the sounds of an advancing army. Panic sets in as villagers become convinced they are under attack by an unknown enemy. The men of the village, armed with pitchforks, torches, and a whole lot of courage, gather to defend their homes. They charge towards the marsh, ready to face the enemy. The scene is set for an epic confrontation, or so they think. As they approach the marsh, the croaking reaches a fever pitch. The villagers, now fully convinced they are about to engage in a fierce battle, brace themselves. But instead of enemy soldiers, they find frogs, thousands of frogs, croaking away, completely oblivious to the chaos they have caused. The War of Jenkins's Ear, 1739. It's 1731, and the high seas are a dangerous place, filled with pirates, privateers, and naval skirmishes. Among these treacherous waters sails Robert Jenkins, a British merchant captain. His uneventful voyage is about to take a turn for the worse and spark one of the most absurd conflicts in history. Jenkins's ship is boarded by the Spanish Coast Guard, under suspicion of smuggling. Tempers flare, and in a dramatic turn of events, a Spanish officer severs Jenkins's ear and tauntingly tells him to take it to his king. The enraged captain does exactly that, preserving his ear in a jar of brandy for safekeeping. Fast forward to 1738, when Jenkins presents his macabre keepsake to the British Parliament. Holding up the jar, he recounts his harrowing tale, painting a vivid picture of Spanish brutality on the high seas. The politicians, ever eager for a good excuse to antagonize Spain, are incensed. Public outrage swells, and soon the cry for retribution echoes through the halls of power. And so, dear viewers, a preserved ear in a jar became the unlikely catalyst for war. One might say the British Empire decided to lend an ear to Jenkins's plight, quite literally. War is declared in 1739, and thus begins the War of Jenkins's Ear. It's a conflict marked by skirmishes in the Caribbean and along the coast of Georgia. British and Spanish forces clash over control of lucrative trade routes, with neither side gaining a significant advantage. The war sees its fair share of dramatic battles, daring raids, and high-seas adventure, but it's always overshadowed by its bizarre origin story. Picture the scene. British soldiers marching into battle, proudly declaring they are fighting for Jenkins's ear. It's a rallying cry that must have left the Spanish utterly bewildered. One can only imagine the conversations. Why are they attacking us? Well, they seem quite upset about an ear. The war rages on intermittently until it eventually merges with the larger War of Austrian Succession in 1742. By then, Jenkins's ear has faded into a curious historical footnote, a symbol of the strange and often trivial reasons humans find to go to war. The Emu War, 1932. Imagine the vast, rugged landscape of Western Australia in the early 1930s. The Great Depression is hitting hard, and struggling farmers are doing their best to cultivate wheat fields amid the arid outback. But there's a new menace on the horizon, one that will soon turn into one of history's most unusual military campaigns, the Emu War. Picture this. Thousands of emus, large, flightless birds with long legs and an insatiable appetite for crops, migrating from the inland regions to the coast in search of food and water. For the farmers, it's like an invasion. The emus descend upon the wheat fields, devouring crops and trampling the ground. Desperate to protect their livelihoods, the farmers turn to the government for help. Enter Major GPW, Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery. Tasked with leading a military operation against the emus, he's equipped with 2 soldiers, 2 Lewis machine guns, and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. The mission: to curb the emu population and save the crops. It sounds like a scene straight out of a slapstick comedy. Armed to the teeth and ready for battle, Major Meredith and his troops set out in November 1932. They spot their first flock of emus near the town of Campion. The soldiers take aim and open fire, expecting an easy victory. But the emus, it turns out, are not only fast, but also surprisingly tactical. The emus scatter in all directions, making it nearly impossible to take them down. The soldiers manage to fell only a few before the flock disappears into the bush. It's a less than stellar start to the campaign. But undeterred, Meredith decides to try again, this time using more strategic approaches. Over the next few weeks, the soldiers engage in a series of hit-and-miss encounters with the emus. They chase them with trucks, only to find the emus outrunning the vehicles. They set up ambushes, but the emus, displaying remarkable agility and coordination, manage to evade most of the traps. The soldiers' frustration grows as the emus continue to outmaneuver them at every turn. Imagine the scene. Battle-hardened soldiers, machine guns blazing, being outsmarted by a horde of giant flightless birds. It's like something out of a cartoon, with the emus playing the part of the cunning tricksters and the soldiers as the hapless pursuers. By December, after several unsuccessful attempts and with only a small number of emus killed, the government decides to call off the operation. Major Meredith and his troops retreat, leaving the emus to claim a peculiar victory. The farmers are left to fend for themselves, and the Emu War becomes a quirky footnote in Australian history. The Great Emu War sequel, Fictional twist. Imagine, if you will, the year is 2032, and the Australian outback is once again the stage for an epic confrontation. This time, the emus aren't alone. They've formed an alliance with the kangaroos, creating a formidable force of outback avengers ready to strike back against the humans in a fictional blockbuster hit. The Great Emu War 2, Down Under Strike Back. Our story begins with the descendants of the emus who triumphed in the original Emu War. These emus, now seasoned veterans, have passed down their knowledge through generations. They remember the taste of victory and are determined to defend their territory against any human incursion. But this time, they have a powerful ally, the kangaroos, known for their incredible strength and agility. Enter the humans, now armed with advanced technology and a new sense of determination. The Australian government, having learned from past mistakes, assembles a crack team of scientists, engineers, and soldiers to devise a foolproof plan to manage the emu and kangaroo populations. The mission: to protect the farmlands without triggering another animal uprising. As the humans prepare for their operation, the emus and kangaroos rally their troops. Led by a wise and battle-hardened emu general and a fearless kangaroo commander, the Animal Alliance trains for the ultimate showdown. Their headquarters, a hidden oasis in the heart of the outback, is a marvel of natural engineering, with lookout posts, supply caches, and strategic hideouts. Picture the scenes: emus practicing evasive maneuvers, kangaroos honing their boxing skills, and a joint command center where both species strategize their next moves. It's like a military academy for the animal kingdom, complete with marching drills and motivational speeches. The day of the battle arrives. The humans deploy drones equipped with non-lethal deterrents, hoping to scare off the animals without causing harm. But the emus and kangaroos are ready. As the drones approach, the emus scatter in perfect formation, confusing the machines. Meanwhile, the kangaroos use their powerful legs to leap out of reach, launching surprise attacks on the ground troops. The humans, despite their advanced technology, find themselves in a familiar predicament. The emus and kangaroos, using their intimate knowledge of the terrain and their superior agility, outmaneuver the human forces at every turn. The outback becomes a chaotic battleground, with drones crashing, soldiers dodging kangaroo kicks, and emus darting through the dust. Imagine the scene: a high-tech command center where human generals scratch their heads in disbelief, watching as their sophisticated plans unravel. The emus and kangaroos, ever the underdogs, turn the tide of battle with their sheer determination and wit. In a final, dramatic showdown, the human leader and the emu general come face to face. Instead of a fight, they share a moment of mutual respect. The human leader, recognizing the futility of the conflict, proposes a truce. The emus and kangaroos, tired of war, agree. They draft a peace treaty, ensuring that the humans will protect the outback and its inhabitants.